All right. If you watched my last video, and you should, uh, mostly because some of this won't make necessarily a lot of sense, you'll know that the physical combat phase I described as complex. And it's quite complex. So I'm going to say this is one of the cases where honestly just reading the rulebook is probably required, but I'm going to summarize. So there are 5 different types of physical attacks that can be made by a mech. A punch, a club, a kick, a charge, or pardon me, 6. A push, or death from above. And the equipment of the mech affects which one of these it can do and how effective it is at doing them. So let's have a look at the awesome here. So here is our awesome. Now, the awesome cannot perform a clubbing attack. Why? It has only one hand. If you look at the critical hit table, you can see he has no right hand. A clubbing attack involves picking up a piece of another mech and using it as a club. It requires 2 hands. It does mean a lot of damage when you hit, but a lot of mechs don't have 2 hands, so they can't necessarily do it. A physical attack with a club becomes more difficult if you're missing any arm actuators or shoulder joints. Shoulders mean that you're not able to use that arm as a club. But the arm actuators can be missing. It just makes it more difficult. The all damage attacks are more effective from larger mechs because all the damage is relative to the mech's size. Basically like an MMA, kickboxing, or boxing fight. There are weight classes in those sports for a reason, and part of that is that the larger you get, everything else being equal, you will hit harder. And that is the case with mechs as well. So what can the awesome do if it can't do a clubbing attack? Well, it can punch. You can punch without a hand. It just makes it more difficult. And obviously he also has the hand in the left arm. Something interesting to note is that if you punch, you can't fire any weapons in that arm. It either is used as a gun or to punch. It cannot be used as both. So that's a trade-off you're necessarily making. Mind you, if this awesome was at super close range, its PPCs wouldn't be functioning well because of the minimum range calculation, and it might as well start throwing its weight around. I mean, it's an 80-ton mech. It's fairly large. It can do a fair bit of damage. So that's punching. Any mech can kick. You're just limited if you're minus hip actuators or leg actuators. Nothing too stunning there, actually. A kick can only land to the bottom part of the mech, and you can only hit the top of the mech with a punch. Those are the 2 super simple ones. And you can kick twice in a turn, or you can kick once in a turn, and you can punch twice because you have 2 arms. We talked about clubbing. Let's move over to the hatchet stuff. So this is the Centurion 9 Yenlo Wang mech. And I picked a gold one because it's a hero mech. It's like a specific lore-based mech. This mech has a hatchet. And hatchets specify damage that they do. And basically are a clubbing attack with just one arm. Because you have the hatchet there. You have it basically built into the arm. If we look at the left arm of this mech, we see that the hatchet is right there. So it can smashy with the hatchet. So hatchets are something to really look for if you're dealing with, if you want to brawl, if you want to do close combat stuff. I'm not big on the close combat myself. It's kind of complicated and it slows the game down, but that's just me. So we've talked about punching, we've talked about kicking, we've talked about clubbing. All right. What about pushing? Pushing requires two hands, and you're just pushing the mech away. It does damage. It can cause falling, and it can also push the mech into another mech, which will damage that mech. So, on the right circumstances, pushing can be very, very useful. Moving on to Death from Above. Death from Above requires jump jets. You're basically Goomba stomping the opposing mech. It's exceedingly dangerous. It will do more damage to your own mech, and so will the final move, which is charging, which is really difficult. You have to move forward and kind of intercept an opposing mech and basically smash them with your shoulder. It's almost like a spear in professional wrestling sort of thing. Hard to land, and it will do damage to you, but it will do a lot of damage to the enemy. So when you can land it, it's pretty impressive. Realistically, outside of punching and kicking and clubbing, I don't think I really would recommend doing anything, but that's just me. You can tell I'm a little bit sour in physical combat, can't you? It's just, I don't know. It's not great. But it has its place in the combat world. So this Griffin can do a death from above, and the Highlander can do a death from above, but the Centurion and the Awesome can't. There is a reference table over here for physical attacks. Terrain impacts the possibility to attack. So here we are. Modifiers for the attacker. If he's been shoulder hit, he can do no punching or physical attack with an arm, no clubbing attacks. But it's +2 to pushing if his shoulder is down. So he can still push, but he cannot punch with that arm, and he cannot club. Upper or lower arm actuator is hit, +2 to punching, and for clubbing, half damage for punching with half damage for punching attack with the arm, and +2 difficulty to clubbing attacks. Physical weapon, I guess, would be the hatchet, and then the clubbing would be on top of that. I think it's just +2 for clubbing. I think it could have just honestly done that because a hatchet attack is a clubbing attack. But, oh well. Hand actuator, +1 to punching with an arm with no clubbing attacks, no physical attack with no physical attack with the arm. That's not true because you can punch with the arm. So I'm not sure what that part is about. But yeah, no clubbing because you can't grab. Then the hip actuator eliminates any kicks. Upper or lower makes kicking more difficult. Charging and death from above are a little bit more complex and have their own. They have their own pages in the rulebook. But you can see there's also various terrain modifiers as well. The evasion of the mech, heavy and light woods, water, and so on. I think partial cover probably actually wouldn't do anything for a punch, but I could be wrong. You also have a heat point table here with the attempt to stand, weapons fire, heats, and then heat sinks going down and so on. And water can help you cool your mech off as well. Not much more to talk about, honestly, as far as this is concerned. There's the physical attack modifiers. Also here. It's nice. And yeah, physical attacks are messy, but can still be quite interesting. Can cause the mech to fall, obviously. Can force piloting checks. We also saw in the piloting check skill we have you can force a pilot check for getting kicked or pushed, and also for successfully charging or get hit by death from above. And if you miss a kick or make a successful charging attack, you still have to do it. Made a death from above attack, and yeah, so there's stuff here. I think apparently if you're unsuccessful with a death from a charging attack, you don't have to do a piloting check, which is interesting. So you can see what I mean is that this just doesn't come up a ton, And the beginner rules, the starter set, has no physical attacking. And I think that's actually a good thing. Some people have... I do think that the starter rules do bring the game down too low. But I do believe that they do allow for a more understandable game. So that's basically everything about Battletech. If you have questions, feel free to ask in the below. There's one thing I'm going to explain, which is going to be called, I call it group firing. It's a house rule type thing. Where did those two actually, there they are. Bring me my dice. So, all right. So a big concern people have is speeding the game up. So that's why I have all these colored dice over here. You'll notice that they are titled by a weapon. Flamer, large laser, medium laser, LRM, small laser, PPC, SRM6, machine gun, and then I've got to just do a big AC or a small AC, because usually I've never seen a mech with more than 2 levels of autocannons. So don't really need an AC 20, 10, 5 when it's going to be 2. It's going to be 2s and 5s or 5s and 10s or whatever. So you can just kind of designate the big AC, little AC. So let's say I was shooting with our friend the Centurion here. And by the way, if you see this R, that means it's a rear firing laser. I should have talked about that before. So you have a medium laser and an autocannon. So let's say we're targeting the same target. So I want 2 medium laser dice and a big autocannon. There we go. And now, by color coding them, I can roll 2 weapons at once or even more weapons at once. So I got Snake Eyes with the medium laser, so that's pretty much an automatic miss. And a 4 here. Probably also an automatic miss, so probably didn't work out in that case. But we could also do, say... The other thing you can do to speed it up is... so there's a thing called group firing. And group firing is optional, even when it's in play. So what you do is you pick a dice that represents your mech warrior's kind of just generally how on the game he is. So let's say we're firing with the PPCs on the Awesome. So we grab 3 PPC dice. Now you're like, oh, how's this going to work? This is confusing. This is not going to work all that well. All right, we highlight it and we roll. So you see we got a 6 on this dice. This is your D6 for every weapon. So this is a 9, this is a 10, and this is a 10. And you could speed the game up so much by that. The Death from Above gaming guys use this a lot. And I do like it. It's definitely something that both players have to be okay with, because it can lead to a boom or bust type scenario where the game goes a bit faster because you might get like a big onslaught of damage. But you also make it get nothing. Because, I mean, think about it this way. If you're doing this and you roll that right there, well, now all of a sudden, I mean, we rolled a 6 before, now we rolled a 1, and that's a 4, a 5, and a 5. And that's probably 3 misses. So there's that. And of course, you can speed the game up by improving by paying for the gunnery skill on the mechs, to be honest. Because if you can lower this gunnery skill, you're going to just get more hits in general. You can also lower the piloting skill as well. So those are the ideas that you can work out in your own games and have a good feel. So I hope this was informative. I hope it was interesting. And I hope it will allow you to play some Battletech with Tabletop Simulator and enjoy it, because honestly, for $10 for the software and nothing for the workshop items, it's pretty cheap, and it does allow you to play a game that these days is a little bit hard to find a good gaming community for. I've been working on trying to find myself one really since college, with no real success. So if anyone's got a good gaming group, let me know. I'm willing to play in person, but it's Right now, I think it's pretty much tabletop simulator for me. I've been playing Wombat a little bit. I'm trying to get some other people interested. They are a little bit overwhelmed by the time commitment and the complexity of the game, but I think that can be fixed. Because honestly, if you just eliminate, for example, the physical combat phase, you have a fairly simple game. But that's it. Any questions, don't hesitate to comment on any of the videos, and I will do my best to answer them. And look forward to maybe some Battletech tabletop stuff for the YouTube page and also my Twitch channel. So that's basically it. I don't have anything else. Have a very Merry Christmas.